Welcome to another episode of Full Retard. I'm your guest host, that crazy butterfly lady. Today we have a story from r/entitled parents. My toddler's shoes don't match his underwear? Hearsay. So, I've said in a few previous posts that I used to work in childcare, and as such have a few good stories. This happened a few years ago, and so some details are foggy, but I'll do my best to get the important bits across clearly. The childcare center I worked at was divided into two floors, infants and toddlers downstairs and 3-year-olds in upstairs. I was working downstairs in the toddler room when I met the entitled parents. To set the stage, their child care was subsidized, meaning that the state paid for most of it, not all of it. I also knew through conversation that their housing was also subsidized. They were on food stamps, etc. Basically, if there was a financial aid system active in the state, they were receiving it. I don't say this to disparage anyone who needs those services, but to point out the absurdity of their lifestyle. They drove a Mercedes and a BMW, both new. They wore gold and precious stones, expensive clothes, never the same outfit twice, always had fresh haircuts, and entitled mom in particular took great pride in her long, gaudy nails. I'm not sure how they could afford all these luxuries and still qualify for government assistance. Everything considering, they were both unemployed. I suspect entitled dad dealt illicit drugs, but since I lack concrete evidence, I won't get into that. Apparently, they wanted these traits to rub off on their son, who we'll call Adam, fake name. As a 2-year-old, Adam wore brand name clothes, new outfits every day, had professionally styled buzz cuts, and diamond studs in his ears. The earliest story of insanity I can recall from these people was only a few days after their care started. We asked parents to have a few spare changes of clothes for our younger kids, who on occasion needed them for obvious reasons. Entitled mother was happy to oblige with several full outfits, not just pants, shirts, socks, and underwear, mind you, full outfits. Pants, shirts, socks, underwear, belts, shoes, hats, accessories. Pretty sure we could have found the kitchen sink in there if we looked hard enough. Naturally, him being a toddler, he did what toddlers are wont to do and had an accident one morning. Wasn't serious, just needed some new undies and pants, so we gave him just that and he went about his day being an ordinary human child. However, when entitled mother came to pick him up that afternoon, she took it upon herself to very loudly and forcefully educate all of us that when one piece of the outfit needs changed, everything changes, and that in the future she wants us to change him into whole new sets of clothes every time he needs changed, regardless of how minor it is. I'm sure there's more tales of toddler Adam's entitled mother to tell, like that time she threw a torrential fit that one of his diamond earrings went missing because, duh, toddlers will play with piercings. But I went back to working upstairs with the older kids shortly after that and wouldn't be reintroduced to entitled mother for about another year, until he came up and became part of my group again. And things went from mildly annoying to just kind of sad. The first thing we repeatedly tried to bring to their attention were issues with Adam's sight. He had at least one lazy eye, and it was pretty severe. During each of his yearly vision screenings, held at the center for all the kids, the nurse would always recommend that he be taken to an optometrist as the problem could be corrected since he was still young. But no, my son ain't wearing no glasses, was all we ever got out of entitled mother when we broached the issue. Because of his impaired vision, coupled with the fact that his home life consisted of sitting in front of a TV or phone all the time, he began to fall behind developmentally. There was nothing wrong with his cognitive abilities. In fact, I actually think he could be quite smart when he wanted to be, but it was just very clear that his parents saw him as nothing more than an accessory to dress up and post pictures of on Facebook. So even as a 3-year-old, he just didn't care. He wouldn't engage during activities, was very unsociable, and constantly sought attention through disruptive or destructive means. He wasn't a bad kid, there's no such thing, but he had a lot of problems with his parents' negligence made worse by the day. The one point that I'll never forget was one day one of our activities were getting all the kids in his age group to write the letters of their name in order. And while most kids were able to do at least some of it, Adam was still at a point where he didn't even know what letters were in his name. Or maybe he did, but his motivation to do anything was just non-existent. So being about as stubborn as he was, I sat with him all that afternoon going over it with him, the letters in his name and the motions to write them on paper. And I wasn't going to stop until something happened. And at some point it did. Eventually he was able to write a great big letter A on a piece of paper. all by himself. And I'll never forget the look on his face when he realized what he'd done. It was like he instantly became a whole different kid. Not someone sitting with his arms crossed staring blankly at the table, happy to wait until you got bored of trying to help and moved on. He was beaming ear to ear, holding the paper up to me and proudly proclaiming, "A for Adam! A for Adam!" After a few high fives, he was more than happy to spend the rest of the afternoon practicing his A's, and we were both excited to show his mom what a great job he did with it when she came to pick him up. That's cool, honey. Let's go. She didn't look down from the phone, and I've never seen a kid look more disappointed since. This kind of behavior continued until their care eventually ended. I don't remember the exact reason, but they weren't ticked out or anything, and even after. One day, weeks after they were no longer with us, I answered a call from entitled mother out of the blue demanding her tax papers. Now, when you have a kid or kids in childcare, you get some kind of form every year to file with the rest of your taxes for something or other. I wasn't an office worker, so I don't know the details. What I do know is that we're not the ones who provide those forms, so we don't have anything for her. The answer does not appease her, as she just keeps demanding over and over again that we give her her tax papers. We're withholding them. We're stealing from her, yada yada. After informing her for the 6th or 7th time that we can't help her as we don't have her tax information, she just tells me she'll be there in 10 minutes to take them herself. Before I can even tell her not to, she's hung up. True to her word, she's in the building 10 minutes later, coming into the office and demanding that we give her those tax papers that we don't even have, and threatening to get physical if we don't. Having had enough of her marlicarchy, I tell her flat out that she's no longer enrolled at this center and has no business on the premise, and it's not until I'm dialing 911 that she finally leaves. I called the non-emergency line anyway to report what just happened, to be safe though. Yeah, anyway, she was arrested for robbery and assault yesterday, so I thought I'd share a few stories, LOL. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, and follow us.